Welcome back to part 2 of the Kingston Field Naturalists presentation. So right here in town in Kingston, there's been a lot of activity. There's even been a turkey in Janet Elliott's backyard, probably just passing through. I'm sure it didn't stay. Down at close to the yacht club, Alan Tian shared this image of the mom on the left and her 3 little fox kits. So I went down there on my bike and saw them playing in the grass. They're always fun to watch. And Eden Hatley has had baby bunnies in her yard, little eastern cottontails. Her dog accidentally caused them to scatter from their nest, and so she looked it up on the internet what she should do. So she put them back in the nest, covered them up with the leaves, and wore gloves to, ensure that you don't leave a scent on the baby rabbits. Even the utility poles, on rare occasions, can become a desirable nesting site for pileated woodpeckers. I had this downy woodpecker just outside my kitchen window. The downy woodpecker is smaller than the hairy woodpeckers, and as you can see, it has a red spot in the back. This is a male downy woodpecker. You can also get northern flickers poking in our lawns looking for ants. And our club has to offer rambles and field trips. Rambles tend to be on Tuesdays every second week, and field trips are typically on a weekend day. For example, in February, we have family day outings to Wolf Island to see the snowy owls, and rambles to Rock Thunder. It's not too far, easily accessible if we can carpool. And field trips to the Kingston Inner Harbor. Here, Ken Robinson is the lead on this field trip. He's an expert in waterfowl and a lot of nice telescopes or viewing scopes to see the common mergansers or other waterfowl species. We've had rambles to Topsy Farm on Amherst Island, not only to enjoy the nature trails that they have on that farm, but also an extra treat to see the young lambs that come in the spring. And of course, Prince Edward Point Bird Observatory is an excellent place for a field trip. Here they band and take measurements, collect data for research on all the different birds that pass through in the spring and during the fall migrations. So as mentioned before the leaves come out on the trees, it's a great time to see spring migrants and also the occasional young porcupine. Since they don't have leaves to feed on in the early spring yet, they can still be eating bark and buds from the trees. And I'd be remiss without mentioning Ann Robertson. She's been a junior naturalist leader and educator for over 30 years, and she has teen naturalists as well. Here she's sharing some interesting information to a school group, and this particular workshop was in Frontenac Park. And Anne has an extensive collection of bird skins and other animal parts because she has a special license to collect these things for educational purposes. We have a Bluebill journal that comes out 4 times a year. In the March 2020 edition, Gay Beckwith wrote an article about the teen naturalists' trip to clean out the nest boxes and to make repairs. It was a very interesting article. It's on our website, available for anyone to read. And also handy is our newsletter, which comes out every month to inform us of upcoming events and cancellations, etc., especially during this COVID-19 isolation period. So, for example, the Junior Naturalists in November, they had a meeting on amphibians. That was 2019. Seasonal crafts in December. And then in January, Arctic adaptations and urban ecology. So Anne Robertson gets help from a lot of students from Queens who volunteer their time to put together some games and interesting ways to learn about nature. A lot of KFN members have embraced digital technology with some reluctance for some of us. So Peter Wasick is a fine example of someone who uses iNaturalists on a regular basis, submitting photographs of plants, insects, birds. iNaturalist is really for all kinds of wildlife. And eBird is very popular too, even more so than iNaturalist. If you want an instructive video on how to use eBird, either for your own entries or just to learn about birds in Canada or elsewhere in the world, you could go to Anthony Caduck's website, catch some of his videos on that, or even his Birding 101 videos that he's put together for a senior citizens group that was very appreciative of his efforts and his course. But our favorite old-time method of learning about wildlife are certainly books. Well, I suppose for myself anyway. John Pollan has come out with a Butterflies of the Kingston region pictorial guide, and Damsels and Dragonflies was put together by Carol Seymour. And this is the second edition of the Birds of the Kingston region, which is really a book about when birds migrate into the Kingston region, which ones nest here, when they tend to leave in the fall. And Ron Weir's book also has some historical entries from 1856. So it's really an interesting book and a great reference. And one of the key things that we do are our general meetings where we have expert guest speakers. Sometimes they're authors, sometimes they just have been studying a particular part of the wildlife community for a long time. For example, Robert Alvo has this book on, volume 1 is on waterfowl and shorebirds. It's not about identifying, but anecdotes about those particular species groups. Or Peter Mills has come out with this Ontario amphibian guidebook and interesting information on all of the stages of amphibians. Mike Burrell has published a book on the best places to bird in Ontario, all the way from the southern Ontario margins to the north, with his brother Ken Burrell. And this past winter, we had Barry Gilbert give an interesting talk about one of his favorite species, the grizzly bear, despite almost losing his life in a chance encounter. And in May, we always have a special dinner meeting where we have a special speaker. And this year it was going to be Mike Runts, but that had to be postponed. He's the author and co-author of about a dozen books, and that will happen in mid-October. So something to look forward to. So last but not least, I'd just like to say that ecosystems to function in a healthy manner need all the different components, all the different interactions within the ecosystem, whether they be plants, insects, predatory spiders, birds, etc., or carrion feeders such as the burying beetle. And I feel it's the responsible thing to do to mention ticks, since the black-legged tick or deer tick can carry Lyme disease. We recommend that you routinely check for ticks. And as you can see from this close-up, their mouth parts are like serrated blades, so you really do need to pull them out in the right direction so their mouth parts don't get broken off. Ticks can be a problem for many animals, not just humans. Mice are alternative hosts, as well as chipmunks, rabbits, and deer. So what do we have to look forward to in May? Well, this is really a wonderful time to get out, especially before the leaves come out fully, pardon me, on the trees. If you're lucky, you'll see something spectacular like this male Blackburnian warbler. They'll be passing through in May. The scarlet tanagers as well. They like to perch high atop the trees, but they will nest in forests such as the Helen Quilliam Sanctuary. And of course, spring azure butterflies are always a delight here on the sassafrage. So visit our website, kingstonfieldnaturalist.org, to keep up to date with our activities and learn more about our club. I certainly have covered a lot, but not everything. And don't miss the members' wildlife footage and Facebook pictures. They're always a great reference, and some spectacular pictures are shared on Facebook. For example, Bill Kendall had shared a video clip of a brown thrasher atop a tree calling. And the other day, I heard this complex bird song, and sure enough, it was the brown thrasher. So these video clips can really help understand and help you to remember what kind of animal is out there in our neck of the woods. Also, I'd like to just mention that Chris Grooms has a YouTube channel with some fantastic videos of bobcats, coyotes, and black bears, and he's to the west near Odessa. And I would like to share with you a short 5-minute clip of spring activity in a local marsh. So thank you for listening. and hope to see you in the future.